So let's get rolling as some people start joining in. So we're here today to start breaching a topic that I think we're going to start covering a little bit more in the Visto community. We haven't much yet, so this is great timing to have Boris with us. We're going to talk about strategies and tips for international students in the post-pandemic world. Very applicable title. Uh, who we have to speak today is Boris Remes, and he is from Kazakhstan. He left there as an international student at the age of 16. I'd be interested to hear, we'll get into a little bit about what that was like. I couldn't imagine just leaving my house to begin with at the age of 16, let alone moving to a different country. Fast forward to today, and Boris is now an award winning education marketer, entrepreneur, speaker, and author. He's supported more than 1,000 international students who've had a strong desire to pursue their dream life in Canada. Over the years, many have asked him to share his strategies, tactics, and habits for personal and professional growth, which motivated him to publish his first book, Start Right: Success Habits for International Students, which became a bestseller college guide on Amazon. And we'll get into that. Boris, firstly, just want to thank you for joining us today. Really appreciate your time. So I really like the kind of format here, which we'll get into a little bit of a Q&A with Boris first, and then he's going to go into some additional tips. So Boris, can you talk a little bit about what was your experience like when you first came to Canada as an international student?
Yeah, it's great. Thank you, Josh, for asking, and thank you for hosting me today. It was quite an eye-opening experience. My parents have always been motivated to provide the best education and best opportunities for their children. For myself, being the eldest child, they've looked around and experimented. Prior to coming to Canada, I went on a summer program to the UK and France just to get a taste of what it's like to attend to be an international student, to live away from home for first it was 4 weeks, then it was 8 weeks. So it was a progressive experience. And then when I was 16, I was a troubled teenager, so I could either stay back in my school in Kazakhstan and cause more trouble. I talk more about the troubles I did in the book. There's a lot of personal anecdotes. And then the choice was whether going to the UK, to France, to the US, or to Canada to pursue further studies. And the choice, fall on Canada because it's a multicultural country. It's a diverse, it's a multilingual country. It's open to immigration. And was it 16 years ago or so, right? It wasn't that easy. I mean, I was one of 20 international students who got a study permit to Canada at that particular year. And to get a study permit, I had to get on the flight from Kazakhstan, from Almaty, Kazakhstan to Moscow, which is like a 6-hour flight or so, line up outside the embassy because the embassy in Moscow wasn't still serving visa applicants to Canada. And so I had to do my medical exam and spend an entire week. And I couldn't do it by myself because I was a minor, so my dad had to come with me. Mm-hmm. And very interesting experience when I hear people saying, "Oh, it's a complicated process." It used to be much more complicated now. So take advantage of resources that Visto provides to you, and where you can do many things on your own. So that's great, and things have evolved dramatically. I guess another thing I wanted to touch, the reality hit very quickly when I came to Canada, and two transformational moments happened, or accidents, or situation, let's put it this way, happened to me. One is that I was misjudged by a store manager. I went to a store to inquire about the cost of a hot tub, of a jacuzzi tub, because at that time my dad was working at a fitness center and he was eager to find out the best technologies available in North America to import, and so people take advantage of it and stay healthy and whatnot, right? And so he asked me, since I was in Canada as a student, to go to a store, and I was kicked out from a store by a store manager. Later, I found out that I was misjudged based on my accent and on my appearance as an international student. He didn't want to deal with me because he thought that I was a child of a mafia man. And that was quite shocking. And then shortly after, that was all within the 2 weeks since I came to Canada, I was hunted down by a gang who was threatening me to, with ugly words, telling me to get F out of this country. And this happened for a few reasons. So, I had a choice. I had a choice of tucking my tail between my legs and kind of quitting and go home, or stand up for myself and persevere and figure out different strategies and tips that allowed me to be who I am today. And so that's kind of the backstory of where I started and how I got here today.
Awesome. And we'll definitely be getting into some of those tips as well that I think will be really helpful for our users. So Boris, why was it that you then decided to write a book for international students? Obviously, that's a big endeavor to undertake.
Yeah, thanks, Josh, for asking. It's surely an endeavor. There is a saying: if I had more time, I would write you a shorter email. We tend very long letters that are not concise, or messages that are not concise and to the point. And so I tasked myself with summarizing my 16 years of experience and putting into this guide. The reason being is that over the years, since I worked in international education for over 10 years, and prior to this as an international student, parents, students would come to me, ask me for advice on, well, Boris, how to be successful with applying to schools and getting in, what it's like to be a successful student, what it's like to get a job, to immigrate to Canada. And so people have been asking me these questions over and over again, and time is precious, time is limited. So instead of answering questions one by one, and I've done it over the years, I just decided to invest the time to write everything I know into a book. And so people can pick it up, read it over the weekend. It's a fairly short guide that spans a full life cycle of a student and parents as well, from a moment of deciding to go to study abroad, to choosing Canada, to applying and getting into a dream school, to being a successful students and graduating with distinction, to getting a job, internship, part-time, full-time, immigrating, and then becoming a successful Canadian who pays taxes. So all of it is in here.
Awesome. And that's one of the things I only really realized once I started practicing, which is the approval of an application for immigration is like just the start, right? There's so much more to the journey, all those, other considerations that are super important. So I'm interested, Boris, to hear what's the greatest strength that international students have, would you say?
Yeah. So what I think is that the greatest strength of international students is the fact that they are adaptable. And you touched on something earlier I wanted to comment. Studying abroad is not for everyone. It's not an easy path. I mean, you think it's easy. It's not. It's very tough. You need to stand up for yourself. You need to figure out. You need to find the resources that will help you to be successful. And for the viewers who are on this live session, surely you are looking for the answers to the questions you have because you want to be successful, right? And so the number one strength that international students have, and newcomers, as a matter of fact, is the fact that they're adaptable. Being adaptable is so important in the current day and age, right? It's critical to be adaptable to whatever life throws your way. And on this picture, you see water being thrown your way. And sometimes I feel it's like this in the pandemic or not. And the strength, the quality of being adaptable, actually, it's a skill that you can train. And so going and studying abroad or immigrating to a new country, once you do it once or twice, it becomes your nature. And this is so important. And it's a very, very important value that students bring to the institutions for themselves. But, future down the line, this is the characteristics that they should better market to employers, because that's the type of talent companies are hiring, people who are adapting to anything that is being thrown their way, and going and studying abroad and adapting to a new environment, integrating, figuring out the dynamics in the new country is the greatest strength that international students either already have or on the way to acquire that skill, and they should better market it when they apply for jobs.
Yeah, it's a great answer, and I really think now more than ever that there's so much value to that skill, right? So it is May 24th, right? We're all still in the midst of COVID, and especially for businesses, right? If you can't adapt, I mean, a lot of them have already died, and many will continue to die if they can't adapt. And so you got to imagine, too, that it'll trickle down and companies will be looking to hire people who are good at doing that, because the company is only as good as, the people that work for it. So very, very cool to hear. So Boris, let's get into some of these strategies and tips that you can offer to international students and newcomers to Canada. Very excited to hear some of these.
Yeah, and so I'm really excited to share some of what I know with you. They're all highlighted in a greater depth in the book, but since I have you, Josh, here and a few viewers here, I felt like it's my mission, my responsibility to in whatever half an hour we have to share the best and the best secrets and tips I have. So you don't need to waste your time figuring out things that took me 16 years to figure out. You can just learn and apply, and so you can be successful. So
and really quickly, Boris, we're also going to be sticking around for a Q&A. So for those that are here live, definitely stick around till the end. Any questions, feel free to throw them in the chat. And at the end of the presentation, when Boris is done with his tips, we're going to do a Q&A. I might have some questions as well.
Absolutely, yeah. That's why we're here today, right? And so let me kind of put things into perspective here. So a journey of a newcomer or an international student is very much like this journey. It's very complicated. You have things thrown your way all the time. Immigration policies change, admissions policies change, and you need to be adaptable. You need to look at the picture, at a bird's eye view, and try to look at bird's eye view and put things into perspective to figure out. And this is the approach I took that helped me figure out things that I know. Right? And so that's very important to understand. And so when you go through life as a student, as an immigrant, you acquire different tools, frameworks, strategies, and tips, and they become part of your toolbox. And I like to put those things in perspective. That's why people go to universities and colleges to acquire those different tools and frameworks to put into the toolbox, and then pull from this toolbox when it's necessary, right? So they justify, I guess, they present the value to their employer, to themselves as they grow professionally and personally. And so one interesting thing that was an eye-opener for me fairly recently, I received this report on my desk in late September of 2019. And the report is from Statistics Canada, which is, it is a report of post-secondary experience and early labor market outcomes for international study permit holders. A lot of smart words here, but ultimately it's a report that is quite insightful, because over the years, people have been asking me, well, Boris, what's the value of me investing into going and studying abroad, right? Like, different programs cost differently. Obviously, you have some cheaper programs, you have some really expensive MBA programs, right? And I've been very fortunate to graduate from two top business schools in Canada. I did my Bachelor of Commerce from the University of British Columbia in Vancouver. And then I worked in Vancouver, I left Vancouver, and then I came to Toronto. Now I'm in Toronto, and I did my MBA from the Schulich School of Business at York University, which are two top business schools in Canada and among the best ones in the world. And so I like looking in data and helping other people to see things in perspective from the value of the time they invest into doing a program, right? And so there are different programs, some are cheaper and some are more expensive, but one needs to ask, well, what's the value of me investing $100,000 doing an MBA versus investing, I don't know, 20, 30, 40,000 doing an associate degree or postgraduate diploma, right? And so this is a very helpful report to use the analytical mind. And so I looked in this report, and chart 8 highlighted something very, very interesting. So it's actually analyzed people who graduated in 2010 and looked at their salary 5 years after graduation, meaning their salary in 2016. And the report basically showing here in 2016, international students on average earned $60,000, which is very close to what Canadians have earned, and slightly less what permanent residents have earned. But the problem here is that an opportunity that international students invest tremendous amount of resources, right, to get this level of salary 5 years after graduation, right? And this is quite interesting. Like if you look at the amount of resources that have been being invested. And at that specific time when I was doing a report, I also pulled my tax return. And so here's my tax return for 2016, right? I guess I was one of the guys who was used in that report to determine the average salary of an international graduate. And in fact, international graduates and Canadian graduates for this report earn about the same. And my income was $95,000, which is quite interesting. And then if you do the math, meaning there are things that I've done in my past which allowed me to earn over 60% more than an average. So this puts me in the top percentile of international and Canadian graduates for that specific year. This is very impressive. That was well done, Boris. I mean, that's good, but I felt even more motivated and encouraged that other people need to do things that I've done, or look at what I've done and choose whether they apply or not apply for their life, because I believe that everybody deserves a very comfortable livelihood if they invest, if they're hardworking, if they invest in their education, if they're looking for the right resources and answers to their questions. And so the viewers who are on this webinar, among the people I feel responsible to share the best things I know, so you can earn 50, 60, 70% more than an average, because nobody likes to be an average. So this is a hard stat. And so, well, I guess, let me ask a question for the viewers we have. Josh, how many do we have here online right now?
It looks like we have 2 people hanging out right now.
Okay, 2 people is better than none, so it's good. 2 people is fantastic. So I guess for the 2 people who we have on live session right now, how many of you want to learn 3 secrets which allowed me to earn 60% more than an average university graduate? So press like just to make sure that you're engaged and you're paying attention, and I will gladly share those 3 secrets with you. Right? So Josh, do we have any thumbs ups?
We got nothing in chat yet, but I think there's a split-second delay. So anybody who is tuning in live, if you can even just give us a thumbs up, just to make sure that you guys can hear us and you're following along as well, that would be awesome.
Well, at least let me get a thumbs up from you, Josh.
Let me give a thumbs up here. Let me find the thumbs up emoji. There it is.
Awesome. So you go. I got 1 thumbs up, which allows me to go ahead and share my 3 secrets with you, Josh, and with everyone else who is tuning live or who's going to watch this recording afterwards. So here's the 3 secrets. So secret number 1, get micro-credentials. And this is something I've discovered that allowed me to earn 60% more. And I will go much deeper into explaining what micro-credentials are and how to get them. Secret number 2 is develop a personal brand and work on your networking. And secret number 3, learn language, whether English or French. Let's focus on English for now. So language development and mentorship. So these were the 3 top things, 3 top secrets that helped me to get where I am at right now. But at that specific moment in 2016 allowed me to earn 60% more than an average university graduate. So now let's go one by one, so I can give you a little bit more perspective and deliver tremendous value from this session. So secret number 1.
Also, Boris, we do have 1 thumbs up from Sweta, so she's fully on board here.
Awesome, perfect. Thumbs up, I love it. Okay, so secret number 1. So micro-credential. So what's micro-credential? Micro-credential is different certification that goes along with your education, with your traditional education. We can talk for a really long time the value of traditional education and how it translates in the current world. But the great way that helped me to complement my education, my business education, are the micro-credentials that I acquired. And so back in 2009 or 8, when I started my degree, my university degree, 2007. There we go. That's the question. I really wanted to work in the gym. because I figured out it's a great place to stay fit, and practice my English and earn some side income. So I was on a mission to get a job in a fitness center. So I went to a gym. There were two gyms on campus, and both of them declined me, saying, "Boris, you don't have enough work experience to work in the gym. You're fit, but you don't have any education to support you, and your traditional business degree doesn't do any good for what we need." And so I was very disappointed, but it didn't really stop me. So I started looking for different micro credentials. And at that time, I became a personal trainer. It didn't take me too long to get that under my belt. And then once I had that micro credentials, I went to the gym, I applied again, and they were very happy to take me as a trainer. I didn't spend too much time working as a trainer. I was very quickly promoted and became a director of marketing to sell the memberships, which allowed me to earn even better income at that time. And so this is all was due to asking myself, what type of credentials do I need to get on top of my education? And that allowed me to get that job. But fast forward to 2016, where we're going to make, I've been making a reference to earning 60% more. It's a micro credential which I discovered after I started my job at the university. And this was very much of a life of a university administrator with paper files flying around. I was so frustrated. I had paper cuts on my fingers, trying to think, well, what can I do better? Because this is a nightmare. And also, if you look at this is actually an application counter. So somebody not long time ago, before I started my role, was using this application counter, pushing the buttons. And if you look there on the left, MBA, that's the Masters of Business Administration. And you would push the button for every application you would receive. That was very archaic and very, very painful. And I didn't know what to do until I asked myself the question, what type of additional resources I can get to solve this problem for myself, because I wanted to be, to have the freedom to travel around the world, to recruit the best and the brightest students to the Schulich School of Business. And at that point in time, I discovered Salesforce. Salesforce is a phenomenal platform, which is CRM, customer relationship management platform, which the top 500 Fortune 500 companies are using around the world, and now more and more universities and colleges bringing Salesforce to manage their constituents. So these are the applicants, the students, the faculty, the alumni, and so on and so forth. And Salesforce became a platform that I got really excited about learning. And the good thing is that Salesforce is growing, and one can choose to work for Salesforce as a company. Another person can choose to work for a company like university. In my case, that was just about to implement Salesforce, and I was so excited that I got the credentials, the Salesforce credentials, to work with a team to implement Salesforce at the university. Or one can choose to work at a consulting company like Deloitte. And after spending some time working at university, I was headhunted to work at Deloitte Consulting. And implemented Salesforce nationwide. But for the viewers here, when I wanted to highlight getting micro credentials in Salesforce specifically right now is the greatest opportunity, because the credential is free. You can go on the platform and learn everything you need to know that will actually get you marketable. And in the context of future employment outcomes, you can see here that 3.3 million jobs will be created in the Salesforce ecosystem by 2022. And when we talk about Salesforce ecosystem, this is Salesforce. These are the companies that are using Salesforce. So these are the consulting companies like Deloitte, which implement Salesforce. So here's something for you to look forward to. And average U.S. salaries are more than $70,000 US dollars, but for Canadian companies, it's somewhere in the $60,000 range once you get a job in the Salesforce ecosystem, which I think is tremendous. Whether you're somebody who's on the way to Canada, you can still learn it from your home country, or you're already in Canada and pursuing your education or immigration. This is something I would highly encourage you to look into. This is an example of the Trailheads. That is a platform where you can get those credentials and those badges and then position yourself for success in terms of employability.
That's super interesting. Really quickly, Boris, I actually had a previous client of mine who, when I was practicing, I primarily worked with companies who were sponsoring developers. And now that I think about it, one of them was pretty much only sponsoring Salesforce consultants, and they would bring them into Canada, and then they would outsource their services to all these companies that were using it. And I have no affiliation with Salesforce, so do with that what you will, folks. But I think another key takeaway here is keep an eye on the industries that are popular, that are doing well, and whether your micro credential be Salesforce or Hootsuite or I'm just throwing out softwares and stuff like that, but keep tabs on the markets and the industries that are expanding, like Salesforce, because those could be some really interesting micro credentials. So I'll hand it right back over.
100%, and thanks for making your comment, Josh. Absolutely, I think that's a key, and the issue is people. Like, here's the thing: the issue is not lack of resources. The issue that it's people are lacking resourcefulness, so they don't have questions, right? They don't go down the hole. Sometimes it's a rabbit hole, but even going down the hole and saying like let me zoom into what will be the greatest opportunity, and we're asking people who know, asking Josh, asking myself, what are the opportunities for future, that's where you get the answers. And I'm very fortunate to be able to share what I know, what allowed me to be successful, and this is something I would like to leave the viewers with today. So Trailhead is a Salesforce micro credential is a secret number one I wanted to share with everyone today.
Awesome. And actually, Boris, give me one quick second, because I'll say as a related example, like for me, and all of our Visto users know this, I've been running a ton of webinars, and so I've gotten pretty good at running Facebook ads and creating webinars, landing pages, and follow-up email sequences. I've actually landed a couple clients as consultants who are looking to prepare and run more webinars, and so now to kind of help continue to bootstrap Visto, I've actually brought on some paying clients personally to help them with webinars, right? So like, what is something popular right now? Salesforce, webinars, email marketing, Facebook ad marketing, get good at useful stuff, and you'll find interesting ways to get clients, make money, et cetera, et cetera. Now I promise Absolutely. I'm done.
No, that's good. Listen, it's fantastic for people to put things in perspective. Good, awesome. So now let's go talk about secret number 2. So personal branding and networking. And so I think one of the greatest weaknesses that newcomers or international students who fall into these categories have is that when they come to Canada, they lack personal brand, and nobody knows who they are, right? And they lack the networks that would allow them to transition into the workforce. So I think 80% of jobs never get posted, right? And the jobs exist, it's just 80% of them, only 20% make them to the job boards, and the competition for these jobs is crazy, right? Thousands. I mean, I've hired people, and receiving 200 application for an internship role is mind-blowing, right? That's when you start going, I can't even bother going through these 200. Let me go to my network and see who's the best fit for this opportunity. And so building a personal brand is something I believe in, and developing your network before even coming to Canada is very, very important. And you have myself, you have Josh here on the line. I truly believe in LinkedIn and the power of LinkedIn for network and digital networking skills. And so if you're listening to us today, take advantage and add us to your LinkedIn profile, to your LinkedIn as your LinkedIn connection, because that's what I think will help you as you transition into the workforce in Canada. But I guess I will share a quick story here and how I came to this realization that developing a personal brand is critical. And so, Josh, you probably know who's this fellow, Borat, being a spokesperson for Kazakhstan back in 2006 or so when the movie came out. And that was quite a painful period of time, because I was a freshman at a university. And when I would say, oh, I'm Boris and I'm from Kazakhstan, people would get my name and start calling me Borat, because Borat so popular. I was like, oh my God, people are calling me Borat, but my name is Boris. I need to do something with it.
It's an easy Halloween costume for you that year, though.
Yes, and many years after that as well. That was quite painful. Even the visa officers and the CBSA officers at the customs, right? When I would travel, they would make fun of my passport. I'm Canadian now. I gladly gave away my Kazakhstani passport because I can only have one, and I picked Canada, so that's all good. But that was the moment where I was like, oh my God, I really need to build a brand for myself. And so what is personal brand? Personal brand is what people say about you when you're not in the room. And so I guess when I started, when people would say, oh, Boris, who's Boris? Oh, Boris is Boris from Kazakhstan. And that wasn't really cool long term. That wouldn't be very prosperous unless I would go into like acting business and do stand-up comedy. But that wasn't necessarily on my dream list. So that's when I really start building my personal brand, developing, volunteering, getting associated with organizations that would benefit my personal brand and I would benefit them. And also writing a book is one of the reasons, one of the tools. Let's put this way, writing a book is one of the tools to build your personal brand. And I guess these days a book can be your business card, and for me it is a business card. And so that's kind of what I wanted to share here in terms of secret number 2 about building a personal brand. What is personal brand, why it's important, and networking. And so again, for the viewers we have, take advantage of our offer to add me and Josh as your LinkedIn connections, because that's something that would benefit us, but also would benefit you, and we would gladly accept your request. So that was secret number 2. So now let's talk about secret number 3. But Josh, you wanted to make any color comments on secret number 2?
Only comments are Krishna had put a laughing emoji in the chat, I think, at your Borat story in reference. Okay. So I wanted to pass that on. And just a last reminder, we will be doing a Q&A. We have more, a few more people have joined us, so we will be sticking around. If you have any questions for Boris, make sure to you can post them in the chat now or save them till the end. Yeah.
Go ahead and write them as questions come to your mind when I talk about different secrets. So yes, don't forget this. So now let's talk about secret number 3. So language development and mentorship. And that was another important piece, whether English is your first language or not. I mean, it's completely understandable in Canada. We have so many different languages, and English is not a first language for many. It's not a first language for me, as a matter of fact. But developing your language abilities is so important, right? And so, and your language, you have obviously spoken in language, how you speak, right? And then you have your written language, how you communicate in writing, and how do you do your follow-ups with future employers or with the schools, doesn't really matter. And people create an impression about you. They judge you based on how you communicate. And it's not about an accent, actually. It's not even just the accent. It's also the type of words you use. And depending on the type of words you use, people will quickly understand and get the idea how long you've been in Canada. And then so language, I mean, I shared my story how I was discriminated based on my accent and my knowledge of English, which wasn't fluent at the time when I arrived, but it kind of gave me a hard realization that I have to work on my language. And it doesn't matter whether you've been practicing English, for example, in India, you still need to polish your English that will become professional and relevant to the employers here, right? And so that's very important. And so when these two moments in my life happened, when I came, that I was misjudged and I was hunted down by a gang, I was like, oh, okay, so one, I need to work on my English, and second, I need to build up a network that would kind of protect me, because I was in fear, right, that I would get hunted down by a gang. And so at that point in time, I actually went to the only person who I knew was the biggest authority figure for myself, was the school principal. And so, as I shared in the beginning, I came here for high school. I did my grade 11 and 12 here. And so I went to the principal of the school, and I didn't really share what happened to me. That wasn't really relevant, but I was looking for someone to mentor me. And I went to the principal and I said, "Dear principal, and so I'm looking for a mentor, and I think you'll be great." And he was a bit hesitant, but I convinced him to take me under his wing, which he did. And the school principal took me to different public speaking competitions on the weekend, so I would work on my English, I would work on my presentation skills, and that was very important. That's when the value of mentorship have really solidified in my mind. And so what I wanted to share with the attendees here is few specific platforms that allow you to develop your language skills. One fantastic organization, which I'm a member, is called Toastmasters International. It's a great organization. You can even go there as a guest for free for the first 3 times and see what's going on, what's the dynamics. I love it. It forces you to speak. And in the digital world right now, the Toastmaster meetings still take place. And I love going online with my group, with my club, and presenting on different topics and hearing feedback, how I can be a better presenter. And so one tip within the secret number 3, one of the tips I want to leave with the audience today is that go ahead and find a club for Toastmasters International in your city. I guess now it doesn't have to be in your city. It can be even in Canada because you can join it remotely. Go attend 1 or 2 or even 3 sessions for free as a guest. I'm a member of Maple Toastmasters, and we gladly accept guests. And so you can come and join Maple Toastmasters, which will help you to work on your spoken English. Okay. Actually, this is a screenshot from my portal. Like Josh, I built the Start Right portal for international students, talking about the full student life cycle, but it really focusing on the elements of personal development that I'm talking about today. And so once you get into this portal, and I'll talk about how to get into the portal, you can find a link to Toastmasters there. The second thing that I think is a great opportunity to challenge yourself to develop your English. Again, whether English is your first language or not, and same thing with French, and I'll talk about French. Lingoda is a wonderful platform that allows you to do that. And so I recently signed up for a Lingoda Sprint, which is really cool because you can do it in English, French, German, or Spanish. I picked French because I've been learning French, and on and off, I went on exchange to France. So French has been always on my list of languages to perfect. And so you can actually sign up for Lingoda Marathon in the language of your choice, English or French. That would be very helpful for Canada, and you to get tested. So you might get tested at the highest level of English. But the cool thing about this, if you sign up for a 90-day sprint, and you do 90 classes, meaning 1 hour per day, right? You will get 100% money back returned to you. So it's ultimately end up being a great challenge for your personal development. For me, absolutely. I cannot wait to start my sprint on July 1st and take 90 classes of French, 90 days in a row. I will wake up at 5 o'clock and do my French classes. It will get me in the right rhythm and get my mind spinning. Learning languages is very, very good. So whether you like German, French, or English, Lingoda is a great platform. And in fact, you can do it for free and get a cash back. So that's kind of the second tip I will share with you within the domain of language development. And then finally, in terms of your written English, Grammarly is a great platform. If you're not using it, make sure you go ahead and download it. They have a free version that will really help you to pick up on some of the spelling errors and punctuation in your emails. And I use Grammarly Platinum, which I see value in. And you could always, little things in your written English can little mistakes, unintentional mistakes, can put you in a huge disadvantage when you apply for jobs or apply to schools, especially if language is an important part of your job or your life. So that's the 3 tips I wanted to share, and mentorship within the language development and mentorship secret that really helped me to earn 60% more than an average university student. And so just to summarize for our audience today, the 3 secrets to earning 60% more than an average university student, university graduate, is secret number 1, get micro credentials. I recommend Salesforce and I teach Salesforce. I'm a Salesforce educator. I can talk about this in a few moments. Develop your personal brand and work on networking, and start networking today, because the best time to start doing it today. So add myself, add Josh to your LinkedIn profiles. If you don't have LinkedIn, create an account for you and start networking online. And secret number 3, work on your language, whether it's English or French. There are great resources I shared with you today where you can get your language, when you can start working on your language right here, right now. So those are the 3 tips. So